than 12 o'clock just in case we experience any technical difficulties. So today we are talking about vampires then versus now. I thought it'd be an interesting topic because there are a lot of people on TikTok that claim to be vampires and just different things that are going on. So I find that very interesting. And I want to know what you all think. Do you think that vampires exist? Are they fake? Are they part of mythology? Just make-believe stories? What do you think about vampires? So I did create a little sheet here of questions that I thought would be fun to interact with the audience. What is the oldest vampire story in history? Some say ancient Mesopotamians had the first vampire-like figures. Blood-drinking demons like Letu, a dark goddess who fed on babies and men at night. That was way before Dracula and other early versions that popped up in India and China and even Greece. Almost every culture had something that drank blood or a blood life force. So I find that very, very interesting, considering like we're in 2025 and I highly doubt that vampires exist. This is just me being logical, because if you're drinking someone else's blood, you can spread blood to blood diseases, like AIDS and things like that, HIV, things that are contracted through blood to blood contact. I don't recommend people who think that they're a vampire drinking people's blood, because that's one way to get yourself very, very sick. Also, I've heard that blood has a very metallic taste because most people's diet is high in iron. Another question that I was sent in by a viewer before I decided to do this video was, why do people believe that vampires sleep in coffins? Anyone have a guess on that? Why do vampires sleep in coffins? Now, this is very interesting. This part I did not know. Back in the day, people thought the dead could come back to life and needed to be contained. Vampires were believed to rise from their graves, so the idea of them crawling out of a coffin became a chilling image in pop culture, especially in the 19th century and the 20th century. All kinds of horror movies came out and they ran with this idea. Plus, it's also aesthetic as hell to think that vampires sleep in coffins. I mean, they could, but I don't think so. I personally have never encountered a real-life vampire. If you have, let me know in the comments. Hey, welcome. We're talking about vampires. Do you believe they exist? Have you encountered one? Do you yourself think you're a vampire? There are several people on TikTok in the vampire TikTok community who think that, well, they think they're vampires. And have come out to ask the public for help protecting them because they've got kicked out of their vampire society, which I find kind of interesting, because they have exposed the vampire community. I don't believe that vampires exist. I think that they're kind of in stories, but, you know, they date back to the earliest 20th century. I'm reading some of the questions some of you guys sent in. Make sure you're keeping your comments appropriate. It's an open live and people can have all kinds of different opinions. My opinion, though, is that they don't exist, but I've never actually seen one, so that's just my opinion. That's why I'm opening up the live. I'm interested in hearing what people think about vampires. I'm also reading some of your questions that some of you guys have sent in to me. Okay, so which vampire would win in a fight? Blade, Dracula, or Selene from the underworld? This is a question that you guys asked me. Blade's got tech training and half vampire rage. Dracula has mysticism and pure OG power. Selene, she's the first feral and never seems to die. Verdict, Blade in daylight, Dracula in the shadows. Selene, if it's raining, is slow motion involved. What do you guys think? We're talking about vampires within movies. Another good question. Are there still people today who believe that they're vampires? Absolutely. All over TikTok, there's a whole TikTok vampire TikTok community. Also people on like Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram that just kind of think they're vampires. Or cold ones, as they like to call them. I personally don't believe that they exist. I do think it's kind of interesting to read stories about them. I think people's imagination does run wild, but I personally don't believe that they exist. But there are people that do think that they are vampires. And they engage in vampire blood bowls, which is basically essentially like a giant prom where vampires go and get together and they share blood. They drink each other's blood. I don't believe in that. I have a friend who thinks he and his wife is a vampire. No judgment there. I mean, I respect everyone's own beliefs. I have never encountered a vampire myself, but yes, I have encountered several ghosts. So I can relate to your comment. Do you think TikTok or social media in general has made vampires cool again? I think that, so yeah, like the kind of craze in the early 2000s was like, it was really big and then it kind of like died out. And then, yeah, in 2025, it's come back and people are coming out as vampires or coming out and outing the supposed vampire community. I'm staying neutral at that just because I want to hear what everybody has to think and everybody has to say. Interesting. I was at my grandma's and we heard a baby crying, but there was no babies. Could be a demon. Could also be any type of ghost, poltergeist, shadow person, or a mimic. Mimics are very interesting. They're not real entities. They're spiritual entities that are evil, that can mimic things in real life. There is one house which is still locked and no one goes in that house. Whoever goes there I have seen staying in the house only maximum of 5 days. After that, they run away. Where is this at? What house? Like what country or what state is that in? There's a lot of properties that have different things, different energies or entities that inhibit them. That's interesting, though. It could be a mimic. If you don't know what a mimic is, you should look that up. They're bad. No good can come from a mimic or a skinwalker. There is a place, I think it's Arizona, and there was also a place that I heard about recently in Texas on Facebook, Skinwalker Ranch, and they've done several videos about it where people swear that they have seen these. I don't even know how I would describe them because I myself have never seen a skinwalker, but these entities that kind of like have huge body dysmorphias and then they kind of run around like unholy and naked and ravaged like a savage animal, and they have glowing eyes and they just kind of run around and hop in the trees and they're really fast. Native Americans, if I'm not mistaken, believe in skinwalkers, and there's a lot around that in their culture. I personally have never seen one. There was a holy temple there. They break in it and made a house. So yeah, if you're playing with like Ouija boards, different things like that, or dabbling in dark arts or magic, witchcraft, things like that, you can absolutely, if you believe in that, you can absolutely invite things into a space and they can take up residence there. At nighttime, I had a burden on my chest around 3 a.m. many times. You mean like a heavy, like when you say burden, do you mean like a heavy pressure? Like you feel almost like sleep paralysis, like you feel like there's pressure on your chest, like something's kind of holding you down? That's what they are, I think. Oh, interesting. Yeah, people think that skinwalkers and vampires are within the same kind of covenant of people. I don't. I think that they're two different beings, but I mean, I could be wrong. I was doing security at night about 3 a.m. and I had sleep paralysis. So did you fall asleep or you were kind of in between? Sleep paralysis, it's no joke. As I was saying in my last video, I have a sleep paralysis demon. So like if I am stressed, I'll stay awake till like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And my sleep paralysis demon looks like a combination between a scary clown wielding a chainsaw and a leprechaun riding on a little like kid's bicycle. When I say a bicycle, I mean those ones with the big wheel in the front and the two in the back, like from the 90s. Yeah, my sleep paralysis demon's pretty scary. I have never seen a vampire in my life. Yeah, a lot of people in like Romania believe in that. I feel like there's a lot since like they came out with what is that book series that everyone was crazy about? God, I read it in high school. It's been 20 years. Give me a minute. I just watched it on Netflix the other day. The New Moon, like the Twilight Saga. I don't know if they're going to come out with another movie, but I know that they have, as of about a year or two ago, they have a new book in that Twilight series. I don't know what it's called, but I did see that in the bookstore. And they kind of have made vampires intriguing and sexy. Like, I've never thought of a vampire as sexy, abs, slick back hair with gel and spikes. I mean, that's kind of weird. It's like, y'all remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer? That show that was like early 2000s? I don't know. I don't think vampires should be sexy or erotic or arousing. They're supposed to be like scary. I read Dracula in high school, and I've never thought of a vampire as charming or glittering like a bunch of diamonds in the light. That's just kind of weird to me. But they've taken it in a new direction to keep selling you stuff. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'll respect you and not read that out loud. But hopefully you're okay with me talking about that. So if it's something that came through the wall, it could have very well been a shadow apparition or a shadow person. They can go through the wall, almost like teleporting. Yeah, there's a lot of dark energy involved in that. We used to have a shadow person in the property that I used to live in back in Ohio. And now that property's been long sold, and another friend of mine lives there, and she experiences weird things at that property as well. You've encountered lots of ghosts, and you saw the Hat Man. I've seen the Hat Man on 2 different occasions. He's pretty menacing looking. And not as a result of sleep paralysis. So a lot of people will see him as a result of sleep paralysis, like hallucinations from not sleeping. But you can also, people claim you can also see him not related to sleep paralysis or hallucinations. You can just see him. It just depends on where your spiritual energy is with your third eye, your chakras, and also what you believe. So once you kind of open this, it's very hard to close it. When I point to this is your pineal gland up here. This is your third eye. So once you open that, it's very hard to close that. So when you open that, you're able to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see when your third eye is closed. The Hat Man, skinwalkers, the cold ones, just different things, shadow people. Yeah, I've heard of people being attacked in their dreams by spiritual entities. That almost sounds like a demonic war. You saw the Hat Man. What did he look like? Everyone says the Hat Man looks different. Like when I saw the Hat Man, the 2 different times that I seen him, he appeared to me different both times. So the first time I saw the Hat Man, I was living in my 1810 property that was like really inhibited by bad energy and poltergeist and a lot of ghost, even I believe Satan himself. but that's a story for another time. So I was living there, I saw this being, and he had on a really interesting, it was a dapper looking, like when I say dapper, I mean a handsome looking suit. It was black, like he was dressed like he was going to a wedding, minus the bow tie. And he had on this big, like black kind of Western style hat, but where the eyes would be, it was just all like how you see that we have color up here. There's no color. His eyes were completely black and glowing like a luminescent yellow color, like almost like headlights, but really bright. So that was the first encounter. The second encounter is I've seen him in our apartment, and that was like after 3 days of not sleeping just due to stress. And he appeared to me different. He appeared to me in a suit, but the suit this time was not black, it was brown, and he had a cape on, sort of like Zorro, a black cape on, black shoes on, and a black hat, but the black hat had a star at the top. And again, his eyes were glowing, but this time they were glowing red. So it depends. Can you elaborate on that? This is against nature that two or more souls can't stay in one body. I'd like you to elaborate on what you mean by that. He was all black with a hat and very tall. Yeah, people often describe the Hat Man as being a very tall individual. I've heard that a lot. I hate when there's an internet glitch. It literally deleted what I was going to ask you guys. I have a whole list of questions that you guys have sent in. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I would like to hear more about what you're talking about this building being inhabited by these beings. That's very interesting. That's true. Yeah, only one soul can be in one body. It becomes almost like a demonic war, like a fight for um the person to inhibit their own body versus being taken over by a demonic energy. Let's see what someone just sent me a question. Do I believe that vampires are demonic? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that one. No, I don't think that they're demonic, because that would have to tie into religion, and vampires aren't religious. To my knowledge, they're not religious. So depending on how old this doll is, it could be inhibited by a spirit. Their spirits will possess objects, toys, everyday things, cars. If you don't believe me, check out the story of the actor James Dean and his car. They believe that his car was possessed. So many people got hurt when they took his car and they were showcasing it in different museums. People mysteriously died. Because I don't want YouTube censoring me, I'm not going to say the name of his car because it involves a swear word. But yeah, he had a very inappropriate name for his car, and lots of unfortunate things happened around James Dean's car that are paranormal. I mean, it's possible for any object to be haunted. Just look at Annabelle, and what's that other one? The little sailor doll that everyone talks about. There's a couple different dolls that are kind of locked up that are haunted in the different museums. In Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum, which is taken care of, I think, by their son-in-law since they've passed, and they've got several things in there, several things from different stories and different events, horrific events, exorcisms, that were things that were possessed, that they came and they like took away, and then they would have a priest come and bless those objects, and those objects are locked up. But yeah, there's a lot to be said about possessed dolls. Just look up Annabelle. They've done several stories about Annabelle. No, I'm not saying that your story is not true. I'm saying that objects can 100% be haunted. I have a haunted painting that lives in my bedroom, and sometimes I will see the person who painted it looking at it. I'll see like not his the actual person, but their spirit, because the person who did the painting died. So yeah, I have a haunted painting of like just a wooded mountain area. It's a very beautiful painting, but it's a haunted painting. Are you asking if you can see the painting? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Is that a name of a spiritual being? I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't even know how to say that. Yeah, I can absolutely show you, of course. Oh, perfect. He left the yoga ball for me to trip over. So yeah, this painting behind me, absolutely. You won't see anything right now, but like periodically during the night, I'll see a man standing in front of this painting, and this is my haunted painting that hangs on my wall. It's beautiful though, but yeah, that's my little haunted painting. And sometimes I'll see the person appreciating it who painted it. Other times I'll just see the person staring at me. So it depends on when he feels like showing his presence. Put this back on the stand. Oh, so he's like a god or a goddess. Interesting. I am going to look that up while you're talking to me about that, because I don't think I've heard of that. I've heard of a lot of different things, but not that. Yeah, I was just searching the legend of the Mothman the other day. So let me look this up while I'm talking to you. I'm going to look at your spelling because I've never heard of this. There's also a song about this. Oh. Tell me if I'm saying this wrong. Shandev, also known as the Hindu deity associated with the planet Saturn, is considered the god of karma and justice. Huh. The 9 celestial beings in Hindu Australia, and known for his role in delivering justice based on one's actions, is often depicted with a dark complex, holding a sword, scepter, and riding a buffalo or a crow. This picture is pretty dark. Ah. Let me see if I can pull up another image of this. This is interesting. You guys are always so full of information, and I love learning. This is very interesting. Huh. That's pretty cool. I'm going to show you guys what she's talking about. Can you see that? So it is a real thing, just so people don't go, oh, what is she talking about? It is a real thing that I'm looking up right now. This is very interesting. The pictures are very interesting too. Keep a lemon under your pillow. What does a lemon under your pillow do? Oh, interesting. That is very interesting. Hi.
Hey.
How's your day going?
Yeah, it's going.
It's going. Has it been busy?
So.
Husband just got home for his lunch break. That is wild. You know, I'm going to look more into this. I'm going to call you Hans because I don't know how to say your first name. So if that's okay, let me know. But I'm going to look more into this. This is very interesting. I may have to do a separate video on this. This is intriguing to me. I like learning about a variety of different cultures and their beliefs and kind of mythology or practices. But this is interesting to me. The picture is kind of cool. And he looks like he's levitating. There's a couple different pictures on here of this is very interesting. Huh. You certainly have piqued my curiosity with this one. Why is that? Stupid sensor on my watch. I am definitely going to keep that one in mind. I've never heard of that. If you want me to do a separate video on that once I kind of do more research, let me know. That could be an interesting topic. Very interesting topic. I can see that a lot of things coming from that conversation. Yeah, that's what it was saying on Google. He rides a dog or a crow. Hi. See a couple of new people. Hello, Riley. Okay, so let's see another question that you sent in. What's with vampires and garlic? So garlic is believed to have a spiritual healing powers and is also used to ward off demons, evil spirits, and of course, supposedly, vampires. It was even hung around the doors and the necks. Turns out garlic also has antimicrobial properties too. This is a situation where myth and medicine kind of overlap each other. I do find this interesting. Yeah, I do find this interesting, the thing about garlic. I love garlic. Anyone else like garlic? Hello. So garlic, not only on the subject of vampires, but garlic does have a lot of antimicrobial properties. What they mean by that is it's good for your overall health. It'll draw toxins out of your body. I like to eat garlic and honey when I'm sick. It's actually really good for you. I guess that's why all the vampires stay away from me, jokingly said. Another good question that you guys sent in is, where did bat transformation myth come from? So pertaining to vampires turning into bats to like take flight and escape. So the connection between vampires and bats really solidified with Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1987. People already knew and feared about bats, especially blood-sucking ones like the vampire bat discovered in South America. Dracula's ability to shift into one made it even creepier. And now most people can't unsee that. Most people just assume that a vampire changes into a bat. You know, I've heard that. I've heard that different entities are scared of fire or light. I'm looking at the screen, but I'm also looking at questions that you guys have sent me. Because when you comment on the videos, I can see all your questions. Sometimes I'll answer them on the live, and sometimes if I don't see them, I will answer them either in the next video or I'll make a separate video depending on what you're asking. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. How do vampires go from terrifying monsters to hot love interest? Again, you know how I was talking about the Twilight Saga and how they like made them hot? I just find that weird. So in early folklore, vampires were disgusting, bloated, even in literature like Dracula, and then they added the appealing part of it, the erotic stuff. I have to be careful about what I say on the live because they will ban me. Anne Rice's couple of her books that were tragic also made the top 100s for books to read. In the early 2000s, Twilight came out, True Blood, Vampire Diaries, and then suddenly, like I said, all vampires had hair gels, spiked hair, abs, and were apparently incredibly sexy. I think vampires have been depicted kind of dark, mysterious, and evil and scary for a long time, that now they're trying to depict vampires in a very erotic way. Don't ban me for saying that, YouTube. I have to watch what I say. They flag certain words and certain comments. I don't know. I always feel like if you're going to talk about vampires, they shouldn't be like Edward Cullen's from like the Twilight Saga. No offense if you're watching this. He is like drop dead gorgeous as a vampire, and Bella beautifully executed her role as his queen. But aside from that, I just think vampires should be dark and scary and mysterious and not good looking. I just think it ruins it. That's my opinion, though. I got a repeat question. I think I did answer this, but if I didn't, I'll answer it again. Has TikTok or social media made vampires cool again? Yeah. So vampires had a big thing back in the early 2000s, and then there were several newspaper articles where people thought that they were even vampires or even came out as vampires. Let's see if I can pull up an article that I was going to tell you guys about. A couple of them made the actual newspaper. I was trying to see if I could find it. It might not pull it up because it might be too old. I want to say Charles Manson, but I don't think that's the right name. Oh, yes. Okay. So one of the people who was a serial killer / vampire, Charles Manson, he made the news. So if you don't know who he is, you should kind of look him up. Very interesting cult leader with a manipulative and predatory personality. No, as of right now, that's the only one object that is haunted. Although I do have a couple of rocks that I've accumulated from cemeteries. But not too much happens with those other than they end up in a couple different places that I didn't move them to. I do have one haunted doll, but I think she's currently in storage. They're very interesting when the objects are haunted. Yeah, I have one that I put in storage, and it was just like a doll head that I had found while I was hiking. And then I brought it home and looked it up, and it was like something from like the early 60s. And anyway, I call her Miss Molly, and she's like a very, very haunted doll head. And then I actually have a doll that's haunted as well. Yeah, her my kids and I named her Miss Sally. And we found her a thrift store unknowingly, didn't know she was haunted. So yeah, I do have a couple different haunted objects in our house. You never know, I'm going to show you something as an example. You could bring something home as simple as this, and it could be a haunted object. You see that? This is not, but this is my example. Like you could just bring home something so simple, and that could be haunted. What time you got to be back?
103.
I am going to wrap up this live pretty soon because I got to go to the bank and pay my rent. I swear I make it just to give it to my rent and my bills. You ever feel like that? Make a small temple in your house. That's a good idea. Yeah, but if you don't know, like I said, look up Charles Manson. He is very interesting. I will show you a quick picture of him. This guy's kind of scary, but not to be confused with Marilyn Manson, the singer who also thinks he's a vampire, not to be confused with him. This was a hippie occult leader that also believed in vampire type stuff. I'm gonna show you a picture. He's kind of weird looking. See if I can pull up a picture. His picture is legit, like to me, scary looking. Look at this. So that's Charles Manson.
He did.
But yeah, he's no more. He actually, I believe, I remember like 2-3 years ago, somebody, some crazed fan ended up writing to him, and then they had a wedding ceremony in prison. But he's no more. So, but that doesn't mean people don't talk about him and like hail him as the be all end all like of cult vampire leaders. Oh, that's a good question too. What would vampires fear the most in 2025? I got some question and some interesting answers from some of you guys. Ring lights, the big old wreath looking lights that you put up to like kind of backlight when you're like live to give you more lighting. Glitter diffusers, drone surveillance, TikTok filters that reveal no reflection, probably ancestry DNA test. Oh, and online dating. Yeah, I think vampires would fear online dating just because people are so out there in 2025. He does look very strange. He's got that crazed like face. And I don't want to say like it's a crazed face of a killer, even though he was a killer, but yeah, he has this like animalistic look in his eyes, the picture. I've seen a couple different pictures of him. But you know what? To share an interesting fact about me is I am a woman that loves true crime. True crime actually helps me sleep at night watching it on TV. Just waking up and knowing that I'm not like a person out there like, crazy and killing people. But knowing that there are people out there, it intrigues me like what makes them act like that. Like what makes them just snap their switch like a light and go crazy and kill people or suck their blood dry. Oh, that's what you guys call vampires in your culture. Interesting. You know what? I'm gonna look that up while I'm talking to you. I'm gonna see what the picture comes up with that. You really intrigue me. I need to pick your brain on some topics. You got me looking all over the internet, looking at this stuff. I'm curious now. I'll bite. Let's see. How do you spell that? Oh, oh, that's terrifying. Ooh. This is something like, and not terrifying like because it's like from a different culture, terrifying because like, you know, when you picture different sleep paralysis demons from like hallucinating from not sleeping for like 2, 3 days at a time, this is something that I feel like I would see in my sleep. Show a picture of what she's talking about. The person in the comments. So this is what vampires look like in their culture. There was a different name that she used, but I'd scream if I woke up and seen something like that, like hovering over my bed or like haunting me. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, tell me more about that. That is a terrifying picture, though. That is going to be forever burned in my head. Now when I go to bed at night, I'm going to think about that. I have to sleep there with my rosary and my little evil eye necklace, ward off the evil. That will haunt my dreams. Like my heart when I saw that picture went boom, 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 boom. That was scary. I am gonna have to have Google pronounce that word for me. I looked it up and I can't even say that word. My tongue is all like cat got my tongue trying to say some of these words. Hello. Not that one. Is it a different image? That image was pretty scary. That's like burned in my mind and like in the forefront of my mind. Do you think that there are people who still believe in vampires today? Absolutely. Absolutely. There are people on TikTok who think that they're, like I said, vampires. There's the whole vampire TikTok thing that's been blowing up in like the last 4 or 5 years, where people have come out and said that they're vampires. I let people believe what they want to believe. I'm not going to say you're not a vampire. I'm not going to say you are a vampire. I just stay neutral and listen to what people have to say. It is kind of intriguing though for people who do tell me that they are vampires. So I mean, sometimes I do lie awake at night and think, what would it be like if I was a vampire and I could live forever? I mean, you got to think about it. Immortality, being able to like just kind of see and do everything and live forever. And that's interesting. You'd be right up there next to God if you could like have immortality and live forever. But at the same time, then I feel like I'd also run out of things to do. Maybe I'd just be that person who would go into the cemetery and like scare the people that are taking walks on their lunch breaks. You have never found vampires or any aliens. I've never had any vampire encounters or alien encounters per se, but I did have a sorry, this is why I literally don't wear makeup, because it makes my face itch. I decided to put some on today and it's making my face itch like crazy. But I had an encounter when I was little. This would have been summer of like 1996. And I was outside. I had just put up my tent because my dad agreed to let me pitch a tent in the front yard. And I looked up in the sky. It was just me and my sister camping out in our tent with our popcorn and whatever, things that kids do, like who live in the country. And it's completely safe at that time. So we decided to pitch a tent and act like we were camping. And there was this long, like disc-like shape in the sky that was silver. And a light kind of came down into this cornfield across the street. And then out like kind of shot this long ladder. And then this thing, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like this gray, naked looking thing with a giant head, and a rather small body walking down this like giant slide that was like hovering in midair. And they were like doing something with this technology that I had never seen before that kind of looked like futuristic, like remotes with like a satellite on it. And they were looking and testing the corn. And that was my only ever like encounter, I guess you could say, with like would-be aliens. And this was like I said, I lived in St. Mary's, Ohio. You'll see like spacecraft all the time there. But that was my one and only ever encounter with a UFO. Yeah, I always love to hear interesting ghost stories from different people's cultures or what they've seen. I see ghosts all the time. We have one that lives in our apartment. Yeah, and in fact, I don't think I told you. So the ghost's name, her name is Miss Mabel. I finally got a name out of the old lady that haunts our apartment. She's sweet. Yeah, Miss Mabel. Yeah, enlighten me with your story. I'm all ears. Okay. No worries. I'm probably gonna take the live. Hopefully, it'll keep connection because I gotta run out to the bank before his lunch break ends.
That's fine, we can do it, we can do the bank after I get home.
Well, it won't be open though. You'll have to
We'll
go.
get them on here Monday.
Huh?
We'll get them on here Monday.
You still owe me though.
Hmm?
You still owe me though.
I'll get that today.
Okay. If you say so. Come say hi. Oh, come on. Everyone always asks me why I call it Ash and Jake. Come say hi. Come on. Come say hi so everyone. I thought that was my alarm for my eat lunch. Say hi. So this is Jacob, everybody. He's not always available to do the lives with me, but sometimes he is. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple other things that you guys have sent me, read off some other things. So it said, one of the questions that you asked me is, can vampires cross running water? Is this like a myth or is this true? So this is a myth. This was a real belief in many old European legends. Crossing a river was thought to break the vampire's dark powers. That's a myth. That's not true at all, if you believe in vampires. True or myth? Vampires have no reflection because they don't have a soul. Do you think this is true or do you think this is made up? So this actually came from a Victorian spiritual belief where mirrors are said to reflect the soul, and it's said that if you have no reflection, you have no soul, but that's just a myth. Like, a lot of these myths around vampires date back to the early 20th century. Okay, so real vampire bats only drink blood from humans. Do you think this is true or do you think this is a myth? Or is it just made up, completely made up? So they can, but it's rare. Vampire bats usually feed on animals like cattle or birds, not your neck. So here's another question that you guys sent me. A 2,000-year-old vampire corpse was found with a brick in its mouth. Myth or made up? Archaeologists found this in Venice in olden times. They thought stuffing bricks in the mouths of suspected vampires would keep them from feeding after death. So that is something that is a myth that is also based on truth. So it's a little bit of both. I had to research some of your guys' questions. And some of you guys sent in questions, but also gave me answers to things I didn't know too. Vampires are legally protected in some modern US states. Myth or made up? This one is made up. No official vampire rights yet, but there are real vampire groups with legal structures and ethical codes of conduct that they have to follow. Some vampires are afraid of knots. I'm getting a lot of unusual questions from you guys. Myth or made up? In parts of Eastern Europe, it was believed vampires could get trapped counting grains or untying knots, a weird compulsion that kept them distracted. Oh, this is a complete myth. This is a complete myth. This is actually one that I learned about recently. There's a vampire church in New Orleans. Is this true or is this made up? Okay, so this is interesting. What I did find is there are spiritual groups and vampire courts and houses in New Orleans, and some operate like communities or covens with actual rituals. So it is kind of true-ish. It is true-ish. It's not like 100% made up. There are spiritual groups in the New Orleans area that are for vampires. So that is true. It's a very, very secretive in the way that they operate. The original Dracula actor was buried in his costume. Do you think this is true, made up, or a complete myth? And it says Bela Lugosi, the iconic Dracula from 1931, was reportedly buried in his Dracula cape and the eternal drip. Now that part I didn't know. I always wondered if they kept the props or if they let the people like that died be buried in them. So what does everyone think of our discussion of vampires? Has anyone in the comments encountered a vampire, seen a vampire, believe in vampires, been to a vampire cult, heard of anybody practicing rituals that's made the news and got arrested? There's a couple different things that have happened. Even in the early 90s, there were a couple different vampire cults and people that got arrested in participating in bloodshedding rituals. I'm gonna take a second to drink some cucumber water. 1 second. That's better. But I think it kind of really depends. There is a lot of blended like reality and fantasy in terms of vampires. Another question that I was asked, do I myself identify as a vampire? No, I don't identify as a vampire. I don't practice vampire rituals. I don't engage in bloodshedding because that's how you share diseases like HIV, AIDS, and other things that are transmitted from blood to blood contact. So no, I don't identify as a vampire or think that I'm a vampire. Do I know people who are vampires or claim to be vampires? Yes. Do I believe that vampires exist? I'm kind of 50-50. I mean, lots of things exist that we don't know about. Oh, hello, you're back. Yeah, lots of different things exist, and we are not the only race on this planet. So yes, lots of things exist. I mean, why do you think they have Skinwalker Ranch? Lots of things exist that are beyond our comprehension. So is it possible, even though I've never seen a vampire, for them to exist? Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we had Charles Manson, so not to be confused with Marilyn Manson. Yes, I'm waiting your story that you were going to tell me. Make sure I didn't miss any questions from any of the viewers. Um, that's an interesting question. Vampire vampire attire. So most people think that vampires wear capes, dress in all black, just different things like that. Um, but in reality, I just see a lot of people dressed. They do typically dress in black. They do typically wear a lot of white makeup or powder or even pale skin. Um, but the people I know that claim to be vampires don't share in bloodletting. But they do dress in a lot of black, and they do kind of hang out in the dark. And it's not because they're afraid of the sunlight. A lot of them just like being in dark areas. It's cooler. As far as attire, I don't really know too much about vampire attire. I would say that it's very similar to gothic attire, like dressing in black, kind of that ordeal. Wearing a lot of interesting jewelry, doing a lot of interesting things. Hmm. So is this a location? Is this an actual location, like where you live, that you're talking about? There are a lot of places that can be, like I said, inhibited with dark energy or dark beings. Everything kind of has its own history, but then it also takes on an energy of its own, so to speak. Like buildings, paintings, clothing, they literally take on a life of their own. They have their own energy. So it is possible for a building to have its own energy. I mean, it has moments of history that are kind of captured there. Hmm, that's interesting. Yeah, so a lot of places, like the longer they set empty, and depending on if there was good or bad things that happened in said structure, um, entities can inhabit that. So if bad things happen at certain locations, like say the Molly Stork Sanatorium that's in Ohio, um, like people die or they were like burned alive, or just any number of different bad things, like um, negative energy in the form of demonic forces and shadow people like inhibit, and they feed off of that bad energy, and they become powerful and more malevolent. And so those things will live in the dark corners of these old historical buildings, just kind of waiting for somebody to come, and then they inhibit you. So yeah, you have to be careful. So I've seen people go to funerals, and they will not kind of the best place to take a picture, but yeah, they'll take pictures, and I've seen things like dark shadows at people's funerals, surrounding their coffins, kind of watching the crowds. You'll see a lot of different things. Yeah, if you hold true to your beliefs and your um God, or whatever gods you believe in, can protect you. I've heard that a lot. That's crazy. Well, I mean, it's not really, when I say it's crazy, I don't mean that like that's like, no, that's not true. When I say that's crazy, that just means that I'm like, wow, I'm shocked. I wasn't there, but I believe you. I 100% believe you. Lots of different things occur around funerals and cemeteries, and old buildings, hospitals, even. You going back?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Probably a good idea so you're not late. Bye. I'll see you this evening. What?
Yeah.
Well, take something with you. Take water with you.
Okay.
Make sure you drink some water today. It's supposed to be hot, so you don't get dehydrated, okay? One of our neighbors already passed out this morning. Sorry about that. It's like supposed to get up to 120 here. So I always tell him to drink water because he likes to drink Dr. Pepper. It's his addiction. Huh. So his this makeup is gonna make me sneeze like crazy that I have on. He sees some things. He doesn't see everything. Because he's not really attuned or attentive to like the spiritual realm. So he's seen a couple things, especially in our 1810 property, but he has yet to see Miss Mabel, the ghost that walks around the. Sorry, Miss Mabel. She doesn't like to be called a ghost. She likes to be referred as a light being. So Miss Mabel, the light being or spiritual being that's in our apartment, I've seen her. My cats have seen her. My kids have seen her. He has not seen her. He has, though, seen the man that created the painting, that stares at the painting. So he does see some things. He doesn't see everything. Have I ever seen a house set itself on fire? So yes, when stuff like that happens, I've only seen that like one time. So when I lived in a small town called Rockford, Ohio, this is, let's see, 89, 90, 93, 94, 1994. Yeah, my neighbor was not home and her house caught itself on fire. But she had like a malevolent energy that lived in her house. And it caused her house to go up in flames. Like somehow the stove had turned itself on. Nobody was home. And her house caught on fire. And she came home from work and she was freaked out because she thought her kids were inside, but I actually, like, her kids were at my house. My mom was watching them, and she was relieved by that, but she was not relieved that her house caught on fire, and she couldn't explain it. But she did have a negative energy that like resided in her property. Yeah, even the fire department, when they wrote up their report, because I was friends with the fire department, they couldn't even explain what had caused her house fire. Oh, anything in my house? Has anything in my house ever caught fire unexplainably? No. At least not here. In my property that's from 1810, yes. We actually had a unexplainable fire where I almost became trapped in the basement of the property and I couldn't get the door open and ended up having to put the hose from the washing machine up to the window, bust the window out, and crawl up my hose for my washer, use it to crawl out the window. I had to get pulled up because I was trapped in the basement because we had a negative energy, almost demonic energy in our basement. And it started a fire, like just some piece of wood or something, extra wood that we were repairing things within the house caught fire randomly. And I became trapped, but they were able to come and put the fire out so the whole house didn't burn down. It was just a isolated fire to the basement, but it was still scary. And I believe, so we had a spirit of like a war type soldier in our basement, and he just started this fire. So yeah, we actually found, when we were doing some digging in the property, we had actually found a walled off section of the wall where they had put up new drywall, and there was a planchette and a Ouija board, and people were practicing like satanic rituals in the house. long before us, long before we got there. And so they had released something from the Ouija board. And so they thought by sealing it up in the wall and then like moving out, everything was going to be good, and it wasn't. So whatever demonic entity that they released from the Ouija board, it stayed in the basement of that property. We no longer live there, and since then the Catholic Church has come and they finally did like kind of sage the house and things like that. And they did do try several exorcisms on that property. The entity from the basement did eventually leave after I think 6 different exorcisms, but the other entities that resided throughout the house haven't left. There's still entities that are in their attic and that kind of just float around their house, because several different unfortunate events took place in the house, around the property, and out in front of the property. So there are still some spirits in the property, but all the dark entities that were attached, and there were at least 2, they're gone. But I still see, like when I go to visit my friend, I still see like a spirit of a little girl in the property, and then there's an older lady named Susan. I never got the girl's name, so there's just a girl walking around in a white dress, and an older lady named Susan that inhabits the property with her husband, and they're just spirits that haven't crossed over. No, I've never seen any blood or anything come out of the walls, nothing like you see in the movies. But they would project images off the wall. Like I had this pretty, I would consider it to be like a racy painting, and it was a African-American man and a white woman, and it's a painting that I absolutely loved. I picked it up from a thrift store. He has like a little hat on, and like a button-up white shirt with suspenders and like nice pants, dress shoes, and she's in like a dress with pearls, and they're dancing, and this entity projected the picture, like shot it off of the wall. I've also had objects thrown at me. In one incident, I was writing, and the entity heated up a pen, and I actually have a scar. You probably can't see it, but there's a scar on my hand where the entity heated up the pen in my hand, and it burned me, causing me to drop the pen. And I knew that this entity was evil because it would whisper, just like that, in my ear, but it was a man's voice. And it was scary. It was very scary. No, there was no, I mean, sometimes there were smells. It depended. Like there was a bad smell in our basement, but up in the upstairs part of our house, it would always smell like a woman's perfume, and no one in our house wore perfume. I was awake when everything would happen. Yeah, the entity in our house actually projected a fire extinguisher off my fridge and broke my left foot by throwing the extinguisher off the fridge onto my foot. Also threw containers of open baby food at me, projected pictures off the wall, made my children's toys like travel across the floor, like balls and little push toys, because my children were small at the time when I lived in this place, and it was just a lot of bad energy. And now the house got sold again in January, and now a former coworker of mine and friend lives in the house now. Yeah, she is a different person that owns the house now. She doesn't really tell me too much about what's going on, but it seems like she's comfortable with whatever energy is there now. Yeah, there was a lot of bad things that used to go on when I lived in this property, but a little backstory on the property. Yeah, it's from 1810. There was a guy that lived in the property. He had a dog, and somebody came, and this is going to get graphic, so just be aware. Hopefully you're 18 and over that are watching. He took a cylinder brick, the people that broke into this guy's house, and they crushed the skull of his dog in and killed his dog. And then they came and gunned the guy down on the floor. And no one told us no one told us that anyone had died in the property. So I would often hear like barking, and our neighbors didn't have any dogs, and I would hear barking in the property and outside the backyard, and I would see the spirit of this like pit bull running around. And then I would see the spirit of this like African American gentleman like walking around the property, and I was like, who is that? And he looked so real. Like he manifested enough energy that he looked real to me. And I found out he only wasn't real when I had called the police and they came, and then there was nobody there, and I couldn't explain that to the police, so I looked stupid to the police telling them that I saw somebody that disappeared into thin air. Um, so yeah, so the dog died. This person that was a drug lord, he died in the house as well. He was gunned down on the floor. I don't know about the soldier or how he came to be in the basement, but he was there. And then there was also because it used to be a carriage and buggy town, like back in the day, like everyone would get around with horse and buggies, like the Amish people do. And there was a huge accident um, way back when in front of the property, um, where a buggy was overturned and several people, family members, died in this accident in front of the house. And so maybe that explains the little girl, the mom, the dad that I will periodically see. They used to use our little swing set. I had a swing set that I made on the tree, and I'd see her sitting on the swing sometimes, or I'd look up at the window when I'd be outside working in my garden, and I would see her looking down out of the window at me. Sometimes I'd open up my closet, and the mother would be in my closet. It's very, just a lot of emotion and a lot of energies in that house. Yeah, the family though that I saw, the mom, the dad, the girl, they died in a carriage and buggy accident in front of the house. And so their energy essentially became trapped or part of that property. I'm talking about my former house. Yeah, it was from 1810. Yeah, it's a little property that my former coworker lives in now. The house has changed ownership including me. It's changed owners 4 times in the last 5 years, because once people kind of start interacting with the energy that's there, they end up moving out. I don't know. I live in another state now, and that was in Ohio, and I live in California. But I can only sense things like when I get a letter from somebody about the property. It like I feel like somehow some energy comes with that letter in the mail, and so I can get images of like things that are going on in the house. I can see those images in my mind when I'm reading the letter. Um, because that energy or entity was attached to me for so long, and to my husband. We were possessed by the energy of the house, and when we moved out and we got an exorcism done, that energy went away. But it was a long battle. I think the house is okay now. Like I said, different people live there. Um, yeah, different family lived there about 2 years ago, and then they fixed up the property a little bit, sold it, and then it got resold to a former coworker. And she, I guess, doesn't really interact too much with the house, so I think they leave her alone. I do believe black magic can be a thing and it can be a factor, but um I also believe that the house, like, because it had its own history before we moved in, and people did die before we moved in, um, that is a couple of the leading factors, along with the sealed Ouija board in the wall. Those are a couple of leading factors um, that led to all this energy manifesting itself. And I made my own mistake of, once I found the sealed wall with the Ouija board, I made my own mistake because I never used to think Ouija boards would do anything or hurt anyone. I made my own mistake of taking out the Ouija board once we found it sealed in the wall. And I know you can't burn them because that's just going to make the energy come back to you 10 times worse. So I decided to interact with this Ouija board that I found in the wall, and that was like a big mistake because whatever was there, it made it worse. Plus, it invited other things into the property itself that inhibited the property. So I learned to stay away from the Ouija boards. I don't mess with them at all. I don't use them to contact anybody. I had used it like one time while I was in the house to try to make contact with my deceased grandfather, and let me tell you, it's not a good thing. No good came from that. No, in fact, it brought us a lot of bad luck and just a lot of negative energy in our entire house. We don't have that Ouija board anymore. We ended up sealing it back up in the wall so that the wall that someone cut a hole in and then they sealed over it. Unless you look closely, you can't even tell that the part of the wall doesn't match up. So we sealed it back up in the wall and we left it there. We didn't want no part of that. Yeah, even to this day, I don't own a Ouija board. That one was left resealed back in the wall. You got to be careful what you mess with because it will bring you bad luck. Yeah, in the house that we don't live in a house, we live in an apartment now. But yeah, the other property, someone else that completely lives there. Now I just live in an apartment. Too expensive to buy anything. The economy is kind of kapooey right now. But yeah, we have about 2 spirits in our apartment, and they're very kind people, so I have no intention of making them go away. Sometimes Miss Mabel and I will sit and we'll watch documentaries on TV together. Yeah, and the other spirit that's in our house, the painter, Theo, me and him will sit and we'll watch documentaries together as well. I enjoy interacting with the spirits that live in my current apartment. They're kind of nice. Just want to make sure I'm going over everyone's questions and make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, yes. Okay. So I did miss something. Well, this isn't really a question, but for those of you who do want to know, yes, how can you search vampires? If you go on TikTok and you use different hashtags like vampire aesthetic, vampires are real, vampire TikTok, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the world of vampires or people who claim to be vampires or vampire community, dress apparel, souvenirs, etc. You can see all that on TikTok if you just kind of search. I just want to make sure that I did not miss anybody's questions. Because I'm gonna get ready to wrap up the live here because I have to go to a business meeting. Such is life. Shapeshifters. You know, not too many people talk about those, but yeah, they do. They do exist. I'm gonna look up the picture of what they look like. Every culture says that they're just a little different. curious what this picture looks like. You mean like shape-shifting demons? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I definitely will. This is interesting. I am Rakashas. Am I saying that right? This thing looks like a demonic cat. Huh. Ooh. You all know I will always show you what I'm talking about. Look at this. This thing looks like a demonic cat. Look at that. That is crazy. The way it's depicted is just so, like, I don't know, like a cross between, like, almost like a human breeded with, like, a panther breeded with something, like, satanic. That's crazy looking. Let's see it. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, so tell me if I pronounced that wrong in the comments, because English is my only language. I'm learning French. That'll be my second language. So I might misspeak when I say things. Its appearance is hideous as a flesh-eating habits, which is shaped from human to other entities. Has a set of curved fangs that curl around the corner of the lips, wicked claws that sprout fingers and toes, and two bull-like horns from the head. Huh. Interesting. The description does not do this thing justice. This shape-shifting demon. Huh. I think I'd be terrified. I'd probably, like, if I saw this thing, I don't know if I'd even be able to scream. This thing looks terrifying. It's like Mufasa from Lion King meets Satan. It's kind of scary. The stuff nightmares are made of. I'm gonna show this again. This, like I said, this is a shape-shifting demon. This thing's kind of scary. Look at that. That is wild to me. Like, different cultures and what different, like what shapeshifters look like in different cultures. Huh. Yeah, I have a couple friends that are Indian and a couple friends that are Hindu, and so it's very interesting from culture to culture what shapeshifters look like, or skinwalkers. It's very interesting. What other kind of things does exist in your culture? I'm curious about that. Yeah, shapeshifters have been around forever though. And they vary from culture to culture what they look like. I practice Buddhism. I do not practice religion, I practice spirituality. Huh. I am kind of curious, so now you got me looking up different things. Now I'm coming across something called the Indian demon face. I've never heard of that either. Huh. I guess they look different. There's even shapeshifters that live in the mountains, and they look different too. Yeah, I'm just now, so this is what I'm talking about right here. It's a shapeshifter that lives in the mountains. I don't know if you can see that. That is crazy to me. I mean, I've seen a couple different, like, variations of shapeshifters through different cultures, but that one is interesting. He almost looks like, I don't know, like something you would see, you know, like a comic book character, like a villain in a comic book character, but like part animal, part human, part something not of this world. This is very interesting. What is the other one you said? I'm going to look that up right now. Oh. Okay, let's see what this says. What is this? Huh. That's cool. I wonder if that's where, you know, when they come up with like anime, I wonder if like this is where they get a lot of ideas for like anime and things. This is very interesting. Huh. It looks like they have Dungeons and Dragons characters based off of this. Is this a fantasy character or is this a real thing? Did I not spell that right? I did not spell that right. Okay, that is why it's coming up as that. Oh, I put in the wrong thing. That's why it came up as a D&D character. Totally different. I guess if I would look at my spelling, that would help. Ooh, that is interesting. Huh. There was a story that just made, well, I can't say it just made the news. This was like within the last 3 years that made the news about a character called Slender Man, and this looks very much like shapeshifter looks very much like Slender Man. So that's very, very interesting. Crazy looking. Ugh, I feel like I'm staring into something nightmares are made of. That just sent a chill up my spine, that picture. That's very interesting. So what are the beliefs? I'm curious, what are the beliefs around these shapeshifters? Not this one. I am typing what you put on the live. Huh. Interesting. Are you you might be talking about this one then? Let me see if I can pull this up. Oh, I love it when they don't want to work. Okay. Oops. Hate when I get a bad, I click on a link and I get a bad link. Talking about this kind of shapeshifter. Huh. Yeah, so many different things are coming up. This is interesting. Oh. Oh, I think I have the right one now. Okay, let me see if I can get this pulled up. This is kind of interesting. Are you talking about this one? That's a very interesting statue. I like the colors on that one. It's a very interesting piece. Demon Defender of the Temple. Oh, that says Thailand. Phuket, Thailand? Am I saying that right? Very interesting. I've never been to Thailand. In fact, the only two places that I've been outside the United States are like Canada and Mexico. And I think when we went to Mexico, I stayed on the American side, so I think it was like New Mexico that I went. But I haven't been too much outside the United States. This is very intriguing, though. That is a picture of Thailand. And where are you from? You said you're not from Thailand. Are you from a different area? Not Indian. It's not an Indian statue. Oh. Okay, so I am looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, so many different things. They're very some of these pictures and drawings are very, very descriptive. Where? I'm gonna look that up. Oops. Help if I not put an extra letter in my word. Huh. Interesting. I was trying to see if it'll show what you're talking about, but I don't see the weapon. Wikipedia. Yeah, Wikipedia is actually I should have gone to Wikipedia first. Wikipedia is tried and true for me. bring up Wikipedia and see if I can get this on Wikipedia. They redid their website since the last time I've been on here. This is kind of cool looking. Let's see. Okay. Well, I see a lot about the here, let me see if I can click on this. Sometimes the links are a little bit slow on here. They have a lot about folklore and mythology related to the Hindu culture on here. Huh. There's so many intriguing pictures. You weren't kidding. Yeah, Wikipedia tells you a lot. That is interesting. That is very enlightening information. Legend of Lord Ram? I've never heard of that. Let me look that up. It's like 107 degrees outside. I do not know how I am cold right now. Let's see what's going to come up under that. Oh. Is it, no, that's not it. I see a lot of different things on here. Legend of Prince Rama in English. Okay. Okay, that's what's coming up. That I was wondering if it was something different in English. Are you talking about this? I see a couple different ones up here, and I think I found what you're talking about. Actually, I do like to watch a lot of cartoons with subtitles. It's very interesting for me. I watch a lot of Japanese cartoons and put the subtitles on because I won't understand what they're saying. Nice. Well, I will check that out, and then I will get, if you're on, and then when I do the next live, I will make sure I get back to you about that. I gotta go because I have to run to a meeting. I didn't realize what time it is, but I do have a business meeting to go to, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up our live. I will be live tomorrow. We're gonna be in San Francisco, just going down for a day. John, one of my family members, ex-family members' mother-in-law passed away, and so we're getting ready to clean out her house. We just did a gathering. We spread her ashes. That was really hard. So we're gonna finish cleaning out her house and figure out what our next step is gonna be. But it's been a hard year. She died around Christmas time, and so we had her cremated, and then we spread her ashes like she asked. So this is gonna be a difficult weekend to go and clean out her house. I'm trying not to cry right now because it's a lot to go through. It's a lot. But I do want to say one more thing. Let's see if I can find it on here. So in conclusion to our original topic about vampires, before I start crying about the fact that my Oma died and we're cleaning out her house, what do you think? Do you think vampires are totally made up? Do you think that they're real? Do you think that people are vampires or that they exist? Or are they just legends that live in the shadows? I will leave you to ponder that until tomorrow when I will see you on our live. Now, I will post something before I go live letting you know what time I'm going to go live, as I always do. I want to thank everybody who joined us today, and I am going to check out your movie. I have it up here on my live, but I have to run and use the restroom and then get off to this meeting before they start calling me and asking me why I'm not there, because I have to be at a meeting in about 10 minutes. So, but I like to stay and chat with all you guys because you guys are awesome and you tell me things I don't know. So I'm going to be saving that from Google, and I'm going to see if that's on Netflix, that cartoon that you told me about. So that way the next time I come back, I can chat with you about that. I hope everyone is having a blessed day. I'm sending positive energy out to everyone who is starting or ending their day. Stay blessed. Be blessed. Love you all. See you tomorrow live, and I will post before I'm going to go live.